Once upon a time, a discussion of the most power-efficient motors, that is, ones with the most power per litre, was a talk about high-revving, naturally aspirated soarers like Honda's S2000 or Ferrari's 458 Speciale. These cars were flying past the unheard-of mark of 100 horsepower per litre, and it seemed mind-boggling. Now, those marks have been put in the shade. Turbocharging has made such figures seem paltry, and EVs have now come along to give more power density from tiny motors than any combustion engine could muster. Even back in the world of hydrocarbon-based power, the stakes have been raised so high that our list only contains cars that produce more than 200 horsepower per litre. 200! And even though these unobtainium milled machines are more realistic than ever, there's still only 12 of them. Please remember to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more from Goodwood Road and Racing. Shock, horror, the Bugatti Chiron is on this list. But more shock horror, it's at the bottom. Yes, the 8-litre quad-turbocharged W16 engine in the Chiron Supersport 300 Plus only just manages to pop out more than 200 horsepower per litre. This special edition Chiron, fettled specifically to smash through the 300 mph barrier, produces 1,600 horsepower, which means exactly 200 per litre. To put that in context, the original Veyron's much vaunted 1,000 horsepower engine was only pushing out 125 horsepower for each of its 8 litres. Both might have been fast cars in the world in their day, but neither engine looks impressive in this company. For over a decade now, McLarens have been diligently powered by twin turbocharged V8s in various guises. Whether it was the legendary P1 or the more humble 570S, 2 banks of 4 opposed cylinders has been the way to go. In 4-litre form in the Senna, the latest top-level mad machine from Woking, this motor pushed its way into this club. Having been seen on the 720S with 180 horsepower per litre, it was only when it received a boost that it made it onto this list. Like the Chiron, it just squeaks in, with 200 horsepower for every litre, but that might be because it has almost exactly half a Chiron engine. The McLaren has half the cylinders, half the capacity, and half the turbochargers. It's beaten in this list by a different version of exactly the same engine. This time in a car that's an even more specialised and even less usable one than the Senna. What does a car that is basically an open-top Senna with more aero really need? That's right, more power. As pretty as it is, the Elva is also an animal, mustering 815 horsepower from that V8 and therefore nudging to 203 for every litre. It is the most powerful internal combustion-only McLaren, and it doesn't even bother with a windscreen. As if to show you how out of control the power battle has got, here's a 4-cylinder hot hatch beating a Bugatti. It is, though, a ruddy expensive one. You'll not get a brand new A45 for under £50,000, but that could be because it is one with more power per litre than any McLaren, Ferrari or Bugatti ever made. Trust those masters, or is it madmen, at AMG to fettle a hot hatch to have 210 horsepower per litre. They've managed to extract 421 horsepower from a little 2-litre turbocharged inline 4. In Chiron terms, that's a quarter of the engine. Of course, those Swedish tech wizards at Koenigsegg were always going to make it into this list. In fact, a third of the cars on this list are from Christian von Koenigsegg's crew, the lower of which is from all the way back in 2008. The CCXR was the final bow of the CCX and had an E85 powered 1032 horsepower from a 4.7 litre engine. That means 219 horsepower per litre and, because it was powered by ethanol, sort of the first green supercar. Ish. The thing about Japanese super saloons is that the more letters they have after their name, the more mental you know they'll be. This special run-out edition of the Evo 10, and sadly it seems the whole Evo lineage, was the Evo 10 FQ440 MR, and it was powered by another mental 4-pot. This one, just 2 litres of it, produced 446 horsepower thanks to a new HKS turbo and a Yanspeed exhaust, intake and intercooler. That means 223 horsepower for every litre. Trusted Japanese run-out from a decade ago to still be able to beat the world's hypercars onto this list. Back to Sweden we go, and another special edition car. The 1-to-1 was a bonkers limited edition of the Agera with one single goal in mind: to have a power-to-weight ratio of 1-to-1. Hence that rather uncryptic and slightly awkward name. Considering the car itself weighs 1,360 kilograms, that meant its 5-litre twin-turbo V8 needed 1,360 horsepower, and that meant significantly upping the game. The 1-to-1's V8 now produced 272 horsepower per litre, which is an entire Skoda Citigo's more power from each litre of engine, which is good, because its engine is the same as 5 Skoda Citigos. Later on, the same engine would send the Agera RS to 270 miles an hour, a new world record. It took 7 years for those maniacs in the US to catch up with the Swedes. But catch up, Hennessey duly did. The Venom F5 features a 6.6-litre turbocharged V8 and will attempt to put down 1,842 horsepower. That makes it the most powerful car on this entire list, but thanks to that massive capacity, it just scrapes into our top 5. With 279 horsepower per litre, the Venom would become one of the few cars in the world perhaps capable of breaking the 300 mile an hour barrier, along with the Chiron. Speaking of 300 miles an hour, we will, for now, ignore the controversy over the SSC Tuatara's attempts to join that 300 mile an hour club. Whether or not it managed that is irrelevant to the fact that this is the first car on this list to hit 300 horsepower per litre, which it does to the exact number with a 5.9 litre twin turbocharged V8. With 1,774 horsepower coming from that big engine and a slippery body, there's no denying that the Tuatara will definitely go fast and sound great, revving higher than most on this list. So, come on SSC, let's see how fast it can really go. Jumping onto the podium is a 4-seat GT car with a 2-litre 3-cylinder engine? What? Nope, the script's not wrong. The Gemera is really powered by an engine no bigger than a Mini Cooper S, and with no more cylinders than a Volkswagen Up. But those clever clogs at Koenigsegg have done, or are promising to do, something special. Again. Featuring free valve technology, this tiny engine manages 1,742 horsepower, and while it's yet to reach customers, that is enough for 304 horsepower per litre. Where Bugatti has gone big, Koenigsegg has gone futuristic. Hey look, another Swedish car that's not a Saab or a Volvo in this list. This is the final of our quartet of Koenigsegg's and is slightly more standard fare than the uber-high concept Gemera. The Koenigsegg Jesko has a 5-litre V8 like the 1-to-1, but this time power has gone up by over 250 horsepower, delivering 1,625. That means a nice 325 horsepower per litre, which is madness. But it's not quite as mad as... number 1 is a car called One. Proof that if you take Formula 1 technology and directly transplant it into a road car, things get a bit silly. We first saw the One about 4 years ago as the Project One, and with much radio silence in the intervening years, it had been slightly knocked out of the news by high-revving new supercars such as the GMA T50 and Aston Martin's Valkyrie. But the One should not be ignored. The One has over 1,000 horsepower from a hybrid system, but the bulk of that comes from the 1.6 litre V6 that's been powering the F1 team to so many championships. With such a small capacity, that means the One's 759 horsepower petrol engine manages 474 horsepower per litre, knocking every other car off this list out of the park to the tune of 150 horsepower per litre. The caveat? It'll need a full engine rebuild every 31,000 miles. Thing is, not that many Ones will ever do 31,000 miles. That is our list of the cars with the most power per litre in the world. But are any of them actually worth the hype? Let us know in the comments below.